at Medtronic, prior to which in the year 2002, he had worked as a senior district manager in Pfizer Limited. Any queries or any, you want a good mentor in the field of sales, to achieve in the field of sales, then it's Mr. Vinod Vidhyadhar, the right person for you. So I call upon Mr. Vinod Vidhyadhar onto the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause? Thank you.
Respected professors, distinguished guests, and my dear friends. It's really honored to actually talk to the young budding future, probably industrialists, entrepreneurs, or people who will really lead big organizations. I actually represent, can you change the slide please? Pacemaker would be just one. So just imagine how underpenetrated this particular market is. And that's exactly what the barriers, I think each one of us here, when we get into this particular industry, really needs to see how we can fulfill. So next slide. So when I say medical devices, I'm sure each one of you can imagine, all these things. It starts off right from a very small band-aid, which can really cost a few rupees, to a medical stent, which can cost about 50 to 60,000 rupees in terms of an implantable device, or it could be even one of those big cath labs, or a C-arm, or actually something like an O-arm there. So I think anything of this can be really categorized actually as medical devices, which I'm sure that you all are aware of. Next slide. So, folks, you see, if we are talking about, let's say, the medical devices in the context of what's happening in and around actually the entire world, and let's just focus on the Asia-Pac region. That's, the India, the China, the Australia, the Southeast Asia and countries like that. If you notice here, the Indian market is almost doubling every 5 years. It's expected to reach about a $14 billion. Okay, so that's really huge. If you look at China, it's also growing equally. And look at a very developed market like in Australia or actually in Japan. Very soon, you're going to find countries like China and India together almost being as big a market as Japan. So I think it's a very exciting future that you all folks are really stepping into. Next. So let's look at, one more click please. So let's look at, in the Indian context, what it is about. You have a choice, folks, to make a decision of getting into any field. You can get into hospitality, you can get into actually, let's say into infrastructure, into banking and things like that. But the market that is the fastest growing in India, and I'm sure you would like to be a part of this journey, and that's really into the healthcare. And more importantly, even in the healthcare, where we are just talking about the pharmaceuticals and the medical devices, where probably the pharma industry is growing at a single digit, you would find that medical devices, because just the sheer fact that it is so underpenetrated, is growing at almost about a 20-25%. Next slide. So I just want you to actually just really take a, a bird's eye view of what Medtronic is. It's a huge company. In last year, I think we clocked about a $28 billion in sales. It is the largest medical device company throughout the world. We employ a lot of people. 53,000 patents is what we have. The most important mission as far as the organization is concerned is that we alleviate pain, we restore health, and we save lives. And every day when each of the sales rep from Medtronic actually steps out to start working or gets out to actually meet a customer, this is the motto which actually really charges him. And that is, today I want to understand which patient's life can I actually be able to impact. And I'm telling you folks, it's no mean achievement if you are really able to be a part of this kind of a mission. And talking about, impacting the lives of 2 patients every second, I think is a huge, huge achievement. And that's what really motivates me as an individual, and that's really what charges me to go to work every day in the morning. Next. And in the Indian subcontinent, I think we are extremely widespread out. We have almost about 1,000 employees. We have a turnover of almost about 20 million, which is close to about 200 million, which is close to about 1,200 crores in terms of turnover. And we are not really big because you see, we are not even scratching the the surface of this particular potential that we are into India. For a country like India, which is about almost about 1.2 billion in terms of actually population, very close to the Chinese market. In China, the turnover of the company is almost about 2 billion. And here we are talking about serving a 1.2 billion population, having a sales of about 200 billion, which is just absolutely nothing. The standard of care, that means the people who really deserve to get the therapy and who are really getting it today is less than 7%, friends. And I'm talking to you only about the patients who can afford the therapy. I'm not even talking to you about the patients, who are the poor people who can't really afford therapy. So if you really want to be a part of this exciting future, which is really going to take us actually to a new destination, think about actually any other field, friends, which can probably imagine to really be able to impact this kind of a population in terms of sales. I don't think there's anything. Next please. So, Medtronic as a company, even though we actually impact 2 patients every second, the capability of the organization is to really impact the entire system of a person, right from his brain to actually the tip of his toe. Because we have got an implant that really actually helps you to serve a disease condition of any of these situations. So that's the kind of portfolio that a company like Medtronic is having. And I think most medical devices today are constantly churning out products to really make actually life much better for people to live in. And when you have this kind of a portfolio to really be able to take care of every organ of the human body, I think the scope of really serving humanity or mankind becomes that much more bigger. Next please. So who are the stakeholders that we really impact really as a day-to-day work? Because I'm a part of the sales, I really look at what actually my people, they are biomedical engineers, they are people who pass out from B schools. Everybody actually work actually in the organization. And whom do they work and meet actually on a day-to-day basis? These are the stakeholders. So they meet actually people like the regulatory and the compliance. They talk about, to hospitals like, our previous speaker had spoken about. They talk to the academias. Medtronic as a company, we realize that unless and until we are able to be a part and parcel of actually the teaching organization, where people today are, while doing their MDs and their, super specialities, itself are actually aware of the different disease conditions and the products that can really help them to overcome those situations, I think is extremely important. So even we reach out to those kind of people there. We also talk to actually our channel partners, all our sales today, because we import our products, we don't manufacture anything in India, everything is imported. So we do our sales, our primary sales is actually conducted through the distributors. So our people in the field also need to be able to manage their distributors and their channel partners. We meet doctors and patients, of course, because I think it's really of a very high quality service, which is actually the basis of being extremely good in actually selling these medical devices. And lastly, of course, of the insurance people. Because the regulatory aspects in the country are very strict, we need to understand that how we work with the insurance and the regulatory folks, is actually of a very high quality and standards. Next please. So friends, I told you that it is just about a 7% standard of care. So why is it that all the patients, all the 100 people who really deserve the therapy are not getting it? And this is exactly what you friends will have to actually think about when you are into any field, The 3 most important barriers that you will have to actually cross to be able to be successful in selling medical devices is basically these 3. So it's about, availability of your products, it's really about awareness of your therapies, and it's lastly about, the affordability of your therapy. So today the market is not really penetrated because of these 3 concerns. Any medical device you talk about and you try to say what are you going to do as individuals to really make that particular product successful, I think you will have to identify strategies and ways of how you will be able to mitigate this aspect. So the product is great, we have got a pacemaker, for example, it's good for bradycardia, it's good for tachycardia, great, I know it. But how do I diagnose that? How do I ensure the right person who's actually having that kind of a situation gets it? And if he or she actually is able to get it, how do I ensure that the person, the place that they go to, the hospital that they go to, the setup that they go to, actually has got the capability of implanting that? And if the patient even goes to the right place, how do you ensure that the patient has got the kind of money to pay for it? Almost about, let's say, 2 or 3 lakhs for that particular implant. So it is these barriers that you have to constantly look at. How do you able to, overcome, to be able to be successful, to be able to reach out to all those patients who really deserve to get our therapies. Next, please. So, like I told you, what motivates me to go to work every day, it's about really making change in the lives of people. Saving lives, I think, is something in terms of, satisfaction. I think there can be nothing more equated to that. And that's what you folks can really do. When you actually pass out from here and go back to work, So next. So I'll just tell you a small story of, a person like that, so whom you would be probably impacting in your lives. So this is just like an ordinary person like you or me. It could be your next door neighbor. So here is a person who's constantly fainting, and for no rhyme or reason. He goes to a hospital, he does a neurological test, and he finds there's no problem in his brain. Then he goes to a psychiatrist. He tries to identify, does he have any psychiatric problem? There's no issues. Then he goes and sees, does he have some ENT problems? There's no issues. He is grappling with this, but he's an extremely aggressive consultant. He needs to actually pursue a career for himself. But his fainting is really creating a big problem for him. And ultimately, almost after 10 years, he actually, by chance, meets the person, an electrophysiologist, who actually recommends to him an internal loop recorder. The internal loop recorder is actually, implanted on him, and when this person gets actually another fainting episode, what is diagnosed is that he's actually suffering from bradycardia. And that's when the doctor realizes that all this fainting was just because, he had this issue of his heart slowing when he actually had certain issues, just, for no rhymes or reasons. But ultimately he gets he gets a pacemaker, and today he's actually a very successful man. So I'm sure we have got millions and millions of stories, and what we cherish most and what we talk amongst ourselves in the company is basically these stories on a day-to-day basis. And I could really talk to you and really, make you feel so proud once you actually are there doing something of this nature. And even today, this gentleman actually, is in touch with the employee who actually really helped him get to this particular destination, and he's an extremely successful man. So I think that is the reward that we get for our work. Next, please. So I think our previous speaker also spoke about it. Now, that means going to be an opportunity. I'm sure we are not going to be thriving on these opportunities. What we are saying is that I think it's a moral responsibility for us, being in actually these companies and, being actually the sort of people who can really make a difference to society, that we need to serve this, population, which is aging today. And with age comes actually new debilitating diseases. So I think it becomes more important for different organizations and companies to really research and actually develop products which can take care of different disease conditions. Next, please. So I just want you folks to actually imagine a career, of saving lives. I think it can make a huge difference to you folks. It is made to me because, I've been in the company for almost the last 12 years, and before that for almost about 20 years into the healthcare, that is pharmaceuticals. But what I experienced in the devices is truly, how do I put it? It's actually transformatory. Because, like I told you, it's not a joke, friends, that when you get out from work in the morning, let's say you're doing actually an application work, you're doing actually an implant work, you're doing a selling work, or you're doing just R&D work or an HR work, I think you feel proud about what you're doing. So just imagine a career in one of these companies where you're saving lives. Next, please. So within Medtronic, the opportunities that we provide actually young biomedical engineers like you, we also take a lot of people from B schools like, we go to Calcutta. In fact, I go there to, share these slides with them as well. To IIM Calcutta, to XLRI, to Kozhikode, and even to IIM Ahmedabad. So in all these colleges, we always tell these people that look for an opportunity, which is very diverse. Since you folks come with actually, the technical knowledge of this, which is ready-made and extremely important for selling, I think, we get actually opportunities into sales and marketing. Now, that's extremely important. So if you have the flair for selling, I think this is where you need to be. If you've got the flair of actually, technical support, you have the opportunity of really doing that as well. And lastly, of course, something, very latest, which has come actually into the device marketing, is actually something which is consulting. So things like the hospital solutions, where we like to partner with hospital, trying to see how we are able to, take care of those 3 barriers that I spoke about. So that's another opportunity that, companies like Medtronic, I'm sure there will be more opportunities in other companies as well, which are offering as exciting as this is. So I'm just talking to you about what Medtronic offers. Next, please. So friends, since I'm into sales, I think this is my subject of, absolute authority, because when I say authority, it's something that I've researched myself. Because every day, my job is to see how can I create actually the best sales force in the company. And my research has shown, friends, that the 4 most important traits that any successful salesperson will require to be successful is, number 1, is really having this goal clarity. So, if you folks are really interested, let's say, to just make a difference in the lives of actually suffering people, you're in the right place. If you really have the clarity of saying that every person who's got a disease condition, who requires a therapy, gets my product, I think you are in the right place. So as long as you are clear about what are your goals in life, I think you can be successful in selling. The second most important trait, according to me, in my research that has shown, is really about, having a very high achievement drive. Like I told you, friends, you put 100% people into a funnel, you're just getting that 1 person out of it. But how do you ensure that the achievement drive within you is going to ensure that you're able to mitigate all those barriers which are there in between, holding back those 99 patients so that they start getting that, device of yours? So for me, it's extremely important that you have really that, huge achievement drive of saying that I want to actually do more, the thirst for actually doing more. The next, it's about a very healthy emotional intelligence. You need to know what's your emotions going on. You need to know what's the emotions going on within your customers, and the way you are able to motivate yourself and the other person, extremely good, important. And the same thing goes with the social skills. So you need to be really good. I'm not saying you have to be an extrovert. All of us are not extroverts. But at the same time, I think it's about really the ability within you to be able to go and communicate very clearly to your stakeholders about what you think is what you can actually deliver to them. And the sum total of all this, next please, is really actually the achievement drive being one of the most important things. Friends, in the last 32 years of my career, I think I stand here with extreme pride to tell you that not a single year that has passed by without actually me hitting the numbers for a year. Because I think it was basically those 4 traits, the traits that I'm talking about, what drives me in my achievement. I'm not a biomedical engineer for sure, but I actually, standing here, I realize now, if I had the capabilities and actually, all the knowledge that you friends have, I think I would have made a huge difference to what I was already doing. And I think if there's a limiting factor in me today, it's really about that technical knowledge which you friends have. So I have to have that much more pains to actually, be able to become successful. So you are naturally talented in terms of the knowledge, and that can make a huge difference. Next, please. So these are really the mantras of my success for sales. You can just keep clicking 5 times. So the mantra number 1, when you want to, I'm sure you friends are going to actually go and attend interviews tomorrow, the mock sessions. And I think a very important thing for you to understand, that as long as you know your products and therapies better than that of the customer, I think you are a king. No customer would like to interact with a person who does not know his or her products. So you need to be a master of your products and therapy. The doctor is a master of clinical aspects of the product. He knows how to diagnose the disease. But as far as your products and therapies are concerned, you folks have to be the master. The second thing is that you need to know your customer in and out. You need to know all that your customer really is motivated about. What drives him? What makes his decision-making ability? You had actually the previous speaker in the morning who was talking about being in the Manipal hospital, how they take decisions of actually buying. Friends, today, when you go to a hospital to sell, you might be only actually meeting the clinical doctor who's actually before you. But there are about 100 people behind this doctor who was invisible to you. And if you do not know that the decision makers are ultimately sitting somewhere else, a power center somewhere else, you will never be able to sell actually an OAM or a cath lab which costs about 4-5 crores. So it's extremely important that you know your customers inside out. The third, you need to know everything about your competitors as well. At least so much so that, it needs to be much better than what he knows about you. So that's a very important thing in actually device selling. Know your products, know your customer, and know your competitors much better than they know you. The fourth thing, friends, is actually, I think an extremely important thing. And that is, you need to have the skills of selling. This is something that the organizations will actually, deliver to you when you join. But I think this is a constant journey. You need to be much better and better because the world is changing extremely fast. New models of sales are coming, and I think you need to adapt to this particular change and see how you are able to be, really as per the current situation. So developing your capabilities and ability to sell along with your knowledge actually is a killer. It's a killer in terms of actually, quality that you can have to be a top class salesman. And I think all top class salesmen constantly actually say themselves that what is it that I can do differently in terms of a skill today to make a difference. Because it's really, many a times, it's not really the product itself. It's the person behind the product who makes a difference. And when I say person behind the product, it's really about the skills, the way you portray yourself to in front of the customer. So when you are actually getting to your mock interviews tomorrow, I think a very important thing will be to really reflect on what is the skills that you need to really demonstrate. Yeah? And the last thing, of course, it's a dirty world, friends. We are actually living in a country like India, so it's a very dirty world. I think at no stage, absolutely at no stage, you will compromise on your values. At least for a company like, let's say, Medtronic, it's very, very mandatory that, you hold very high standards of compliance. So it can be very easily done that, I will be doing things in the shortcut. And I think that's very short-lived. It's going to be very detrimental, and it's going to be actually coming back on you with loads of bricks. So be very careful that at every stage in your selling, whenever there are temptations of actually, getting you to do things actually the wrong way, I think you have to tell yourself that this is not the value that I stand for. And if you want to be successful, I think this is one of the basic traits that you need to have in terms of having a very high quality of integrity. Do not compromise with that in spite of the temptations that will be there. So friends, I think this is my mantra of success. Next please. And it's really actually the combination, and it is nothing that, it is not that as if you just have to be perfect at one. It's really a congruence of all of this that what really makes you one of those, highlights in terms of being a top salesperson. And I think, this is my last slide, you can click next. So thank you extremely, Professor Amurajan, for giving me this opportunity, and thanks for all of you for actually listening so patiently to me. But friends, at the closing remarks, all that I need to state to you is that it's a very exciting place to be in. And, for somebody like me who has really experienced it firsthand, I would invite you all to really look at venturing into this because it's a great opportunity here. Thanks a lot.
Of the current, present, as in, and also the future of sales. And I hope all of you here who actually did not have any clarity regarding sales would have some idea, and on top of all of these things, where we all are running as business in terms of, business. Sir, that humanity touch you gave to sales was really a motivating factor. I think that we can give a huge round of applause to sir for that. At this point of time, personally I feel we are really blessed to be a medical device professionals. The reason is because of that humanity touch, isn't it? So thank you so much, sir. I call upon Dr. Shivananda, Assistant Professor, Biomedical Department, SRM University, to give away the momentum. So yeah.